This is over the top. Doc had hit us 2 days ago or something. And I think I had some reporters ask me about, what was the expectations coming back here before the Dallas game, and I didn't want to be thinking about things while I had another game to play. And this was just the one word that comes to mind is just unbelievable. I didn't expect anything like that, for myself. Shows the first class, shows the type of organization that this is and the appreciation of the organization for you. And I couldn't put it into words. Paul and I was joking before the game, who was going to tear up and drop a tear. And, I had lumps in my throat, and I kept it under control. And I tried to focus as much as I could on the game and not take away from it. But, man, this is over the top. I couldn't put that into words.
I was telling Kevin, I was telling everybody, this is the toughest game I ever had to play.
Right.
Tougher than any championship game, any Game 7.
Right.
This game was just so hard to really just focus and really concentrate on what was at hand. At the end of the day, we had a game to play, but it was so hard to really focus. I saw so many friends, so many people I've known for years. Ugly cornbread Maxwell back there, my man. It was just hard to really get into, a routine. You have a routine when you come and you get ready for a game, and it just never settled in. You just thought about the times, the friendships, the relationships. It was just, then you get showered with love throughout the whole game. You look up, you see so many Kevin jerseys, my jerseys, so many posters. And it's every second you're on the bench, every second during the game, people are calling your name. It was really tough for me to focus today. I'm happy we got it over with, and I can go back to playing basketball now.
Celtics lose again, but that is not the story tonight. It is the return of Paul Pierce and KG. Let's talk about it. Let's hear about it. This is the Garden Report on Celtics Blog and CLNS Radio. All right, well, Evans Clinchie and Jimmy Toscano from Celtics Blog are here. I am Jared Weiss from CLNS Radio on the most emotional night of the year. Doc Rivers wasn't crying tonight, or maybe he was back on his couch in L.A.
He might have been.
But KG and Paul Pierce step to the podium, somehow keep it together, barely, albeit barely.
Pierce was watering, I thought. Nice.
I mean, his voice is usually hoarse, but it was like on the brink of crying tonight, on the brink of breaking tonight. Yeah. Evans, you were sitting in the front row actually, right next to me, and you could see the beads of sweat. You could see the tears welling up.
It's pretty moving. You didn't have a tissue for him?
I should have handed him something, right? Here's a hanky, Paul. No, I didn't have anything for him, unfortunately.
What was the statement that they made that you really took away tonight?
I mean, the NBA is a business. We always talk about how, players move on. They don't really stay secure in one place. They go from city to city. But, these two guys developed such a sense of loyalty to Boston, especially Pierce, who spent 15 years here. Mm-hmm. They really just tied themselves not just to this team and this organization, but, the whole community. I mean, Pierce was talking about, all the people whose lives he's touched, children he's gone and read to at schools and, patients he's visited at hospitals. Those two guys just mean so much to the entire city of Boston, not just his basketball team. And just the fact that still sticks with them, even though they've left months ago, it's really special because they care so much about Boston, this entire city, this entire community, and just to hear them talk about that was really cool.
I agree with what you said. I mean, everything you said. I mean, these guys, Boston's a part of who they are, and wherever they go, in this case Brooklyn, I mean, they still consider themselves Celtics, deep down. And Kevin Garnett openly said it, once a Celtic, always a Celtics. He said some things are forever, and I think he's obviously talking about. Just the fact that, his time here, the 6 years he spent in Boston, mean way more to him than the 12 years that he spent in Minnesota. I mean, that goes along, and that's not to say that Minnesota's a bad franchise. It's just to say that the Celtics, the way they treat their players, the way the fans treat the players, they care so much, and you can't help, but, just sort of hold on to that. And that's why it was probably so hard for them to move on to Brooklyn, and I think it still is kind of hard for them to move on. And they'll be back here again, and I'm sure they'll feel the same emotions to an extent that they felt tonight, where they're just, it's hard to say goodbye, you know what I mean? And I don't think they ever will fully move on from the Celtics. I think that even when they retire, they'll identify themselves as Celtics, and I think that, maybe they won't be back here the way some of the the past, Celtics legends haven't. But I do think that they'll be back, and they'll consider this place home.
Well, the ovations were unbelievable. Let's just throw that out there for you. The noise was deafening. It's the loudest I've heard it. Pretty much the loudest I've heard like a building ever be in person.
And we thought it would be that way, didn't we?
Yeah,
we predicted it. We did. Yeah,
we knew that.
How amazing of us to predict that it would be.
Yeah, I know. How could we have guessed? I know.
The Garden Report, where news is broken.
Yeah, I mean, listen, everyone's been waiting for this night. I mean, this night is the season. You know what I mean? Yeah. This is the biggest game by far of the year. They're not going to get any bigger, and you can even probably say next year and the year after that. I mean, this is really one of those things where everybody was waiting for this moment, not just Pierce and Garnett, but all the fans. I mean, they've just been holding it in, waiting to just say their goodbyes in a way, you know what I mean? I mean, the way it ended for Pierce and Garnett, Pierce didn't even get acknowledged when he got subbed out of the game in the playoffs. I mean, there was really nothing when he left the court.
I don't think people noticed, really, when he was getting subbed out.
Nobody noticed. When KG got subbed out, there was a little something between him and Doc, and there was a little something there, but when Pierce left, it was really nothing. So this was kind of, I think, a celebration, and a good, it wasn't really a goodbye, but it was sort of like a, thanks for everything, we'll see you around type thing. And I think everyone was, and it was perfect. I think it couldn't have been any better, from the player introductions to the tributes to just the standing ovation. It lasted so long after the video tribute was over. I mean, Pierce and Garnett, they couldn't stop smiling, and I think it definitely affected their play, because
they weren't very good.
They weren't very good. No, not that anybody else was either. But
it was a bad game all around. But who cares, right? Yeah, I mean, it's especially gratifying for Pierce, because he's been here so long. He's been through so many good times and so many bad ones. I mean, he was here in the early 2000s when they were a lottery team, and they got their butts kicked in the first round of the playoffs several times. And Pierce has been through a lot with this franchise, where they almost traded him, and he almost wanted out. And there was just all this drama about Paul Pierce, and he stuck with this city, stuck with these fans through all of it, and they stuck with him. And I think that's what when Pierce was saying, I love you guys, I miss you guys. He was saying that he was so grateful for how they stuck with him through all the drama, all the bad times he went through. It's tough to envision, Garnett. He was here for 6 years, and they were a great team for all 6. They were a championship contender for all 6 years. And then comparing that to what Pierce went through, where he's just run the whole gamut of, he was with a great team, with a terrible team.
Yep.
It was just such a roller coaster for Pierce, and he was so grateful for all of it, because he'd been through so much with this.
Yeah, and he said it.
City.
Thank the fans for sticking with him while he grew up. From a teenager to a man. With the Celtics, and like you said, Garnett was already established MVP superstar, and he came here, and they were good from start to finish of his career. But Pierce, like you said, I mean, he really came. He had to learn. Everything he did was just in the Boston public eye. On the court, off the court. Obviously, he had the off-the-court issue.
Things got really public for him.
Right, absolutely. And we watched him grow up, and we watched him turn into, not only a great NBA basketball player, but a great guy, it seems like. I mean, things he did with the community, I mean, the Truth on Health, that whole campaign, I mean, all that stuff, just, with the children and everything. I mean, that's something that, those things last, as we said, they last a lot longer than an NBA career does. I mean, that's a mark that you leave on a city that doesn't go away. And I think that's part of the celebration. And Pierce said to Mike Gorman before the game in an interview, he said it kind of felt like coming in, it kind of felt like he was going to a funeral, but I think it was completely opposite. I think it was
a celebration of life, not a funeral.
Exactly.
Right?
it wasn't the end of a life. It was a celebration of what a great life or what a great career.
It's more of an Irish wake.
Yeah, exactly.
So, here you go.
Less drinking though.
Honestly,
you need some whiskey for that, but
you can even make the case that if they kept Pierce and they just kind of stumbled their way through this season next, that could have been more depressing than just cutting it off. When they did into celebrating his return from now on when he comes back in that situation.
Yeah.
Well, let's see some more emotions. More video. Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett. This is the Garden Report. We'll come back and we'll just keep exploring their legacies, keep exploring tonight.
Explorers.
Exploring is fun.
Let's explore.
Like Paul said, I'm glad we came here and got a win. A lot of distractions, but it was a good distraction. It just felt good to be showered and for the city to show the appreciation. Nonetheless, the organization, man, is you give yourself, and people always say that players you can be too loyal. I don't believe that. I really believe a city like Boston is worth it, and tonight's just the epitome of all that.
For both of you guys, From the time you arrived here, what was your time here like, just in terms of seeing people, maybe bumping into people on the street, that sort of thing?
We didn't really bump into anybody in the street, but we had a chance to go have dinner with Rondo last night, just talk to him, you know, about his situation here and things we went through. We were in his situation before, so it was good to see him, you know, to really, you know, that's pretty much the only guy we had a chance to see. Other than that, I just tried to really focus and get back into the hotel and try to get some rest, and couldn't think about nothing but today, really.
Right.
You know, it was even hard for me to sleep. Just laying in a downtown hotel in Boston when I'm used to being in my house, getting into the arena, coming through the backside, making a left instead of a right. Just everything was so different, and it was just, it was great though. It was great to be here.
Hey, Kevin, can you just describe what that was like for you?
You know, to kind of concur with Paul said, it really didn't hit me until I got to see Ed Lacerte, you know, Jeff Twist. I got to see all the guys who made our stay worth it. Phil Lynch, Johnny Joe, you know, all those guys, Vladimir Shulman, Brian Dew, all those, the guys that people really don't know but make this whole thing go around. You know, you see like Paul said, man, you see the endless friendships as you walk through the place, the security guards, the ball boys, everybody, man, that shows the appreciation, man. It was by far the hardest day that I've had to focus. This is bigger than Minnesota. Even when I went back to Minnesota, it wasn't like this.